Okay, so now I'm going to start defining some of the shadows a little bit deeper. So I'm going to use a much darker brown. So I'm going to start with the cocoa brown, and I'm going to be working more of the under areas to define shadow. And because I've blocked this off with the white, I can bring the lines in a little bit, and they're still very muted, and so they don't contrast too much in the areas that I want to be white. But that gives a little bit of a shadow under the dog's neck here. I want to bring out a few lines, and then I want to make the shadow heavier. Here his head would have the shadow. And as always, I'm keeping almost all of my pencil strokes as lines, so that wherever you see a defined stroke, it looks like a hair, or the shadow of a hair. And I don't want to go too heavy with the dark pencil right away. I may heavy it up later. So keep shadows underneath where there would be a tuft, keep the shadows kind of close and small. And then where you want to define some individual hair shadows, you do a few longer lines. And I'm going to have it that this dog has more of the black skin underneath the fur, so I'm going to do the darker colors here. Otherwise I could do more of the pinky colors, but oftentimes dogs that even have white hairs around their mouths actually have black fur, or black skin underneath that white hair. And if you notice, it's really bringing the volume of the animal out then by especially doing the darks more around the edges. It kind of makes the animal look more 3D at this point. So you notice I'm going to do it a little heavier where the bottom of the tuft is, because you're going to get a little bit more shadow at the bottom of these tufts. I will still do it some at the top, but I'm definitely going to outline the bottom of my tufts here to help create that illusion that there's more shadow with those tufts. And you can see I'd be a lot more heavy-handed where I want direct shadow to be. So mixing in a little more of this shadow, but keeping it a little bit less intense, where I want to keep the dog a little bit lighter. And then I'm going to get a little bit heavier down here where, like I said, I want to create that shadow of the foreshortened area. And I want to get some of these really fine shadow lines that mark the hair kind of in the middle, where as you can see I'm doing much deeper, more flat areas of the shade to get that under shadow. I'm going real soft here because I really don't want this to be dark, so I'm doing a much lighter stroke with the lighter area with the shadow. Because I do still want to create shadow, but don't want it to be quite as heavy-handed. You can even put some shadow lines. Now remember, I blocked this area off with the white, specifically so that the dark pencils would not show up quite as a contrast in that area. And I'm just going to keep going through and kind of adding a little shape, a little volume, and a little shadowing to some of these areas. So now I'm going to go in with a cinnamon, which is a slightly redder brown, and it's going to be very close to that original color that I put down. I rarely go back to a pencil I've used before, and the reason for that is if you start using the same pencil for different layers, those layers are going to blend together and you're going to lose some of the individual hair strokes, because as you layer the same color over again, it just becomes one solid area of color. So if I use just slightly different pencil tones, then even if you get a lighter reddish brown over a darker reddish brown, you're still going to notice the individual pencil differences just a bit. And so it's a good idea to add thicker lines where you want more shadow and thinner lines where you want more hair definition. So if you want the color to come out looking a little bit more like shadow undertones, do a thicker line. If you want it to look more like the tips of a hair, do a thinner line. So now I want to start bringing some more of the light fur up. So I'm going to start with the creamiest, the lightest, creamiest color I think that I can find this at, which is a jasmine yellow. And I'm going to go over more of the areas that are whites now. And this isn't quite a burnishing layer, but I am going to try and fill in a lot of the spaces in between the darker pencil lines, because this is going to be kind of the main undertone of the dog's coat. I'm not going to be afraid to just cover the whole area and just go over all of it. Because this one's such a light color, it's not really going to form individual pencil lines. I'm really just trying to fill in to give that dog a creamier coat. And you can see where the white has blocked that, you can really get that shine to show through then here. And in some areas I'm still leaving just enough of that that middle uncolored area that's white, just to give that little highlight for some of these tufts. But you'll notice I start out with wide white areas, and then slowly as I add the colors, I bring in the color closer and closer so that white area gets really, really narrow and really small. The other thing, I don't like to do straight lines, so I want to kind of push out some areas on this side and then push out opposing areas on the other side to almost give it a zigzagged white pattern for the hair shine. And areas where it's under, I'm going to cover over that white completely. So like down here, I'm not going to leave any white because it's going to be all cream. Now the neck area I want to be more white, so I'm really not going to bring a lot of this color into it. Just enough to give a hint of the, a little bit of the fur that overlaps. That's the cream colored. But I'm going to keep that middle area quite white. And in this shadow area, because I am kind of burnishing here, I'm actually muting the lines so that it does look a lot more shadow. Like here I want the lines to still look like hairlines, but down here I actually don't want them to be as defined because it's going to be that kind of fluffy shadowed fur. So it's okay for that to kind of just get a little bit mucky. I almost want it to get a little mucky so that it has that furry, that soft furry shadow look to it. Whereas here, as I do it, I pull the pencil off so that I'm keeping those lines kind of going the same way. Whereas here, I keep it on, so it kind of blends those colors together a little bit. It makes it more of a muted shadow color. So I'm going to do that for the underside, and the upper side I'm going to keep my pencil strokes off the paper as I do them when I pull them back to keep the look of the individual hair pencil strokes. So again, where I'm doing the topped hair on the tuft to keep it, I'm going to pull the lines up. Where I want to do shadow underneath, I'm going to keep the pencil on the paper as I go back and forth to kind of mute that shadow color in. But then when I do the tops, I'm pulling the pencil off to keep the individual line look. And again, I want there to be shadow under each layer of tuft, but then I want there to be hair on the underneath tuft at the base of it. So here on this paw, if you notice, I'm kind of zigzagging the white lines. I'm not going all the way across it because I do kind of want to give just that hint of a shine, but I don't want it to be a straight line down. I want to kind of zigzag it here and zigzag it there so it goes. And again, I'm leaving kind of a zigzaggy white just on the side of this dog here where there would still be some light hitting it from above.